law was enacted to ensure the rights of the public have advance notice of and attend meetings of public bodies in which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon in accordance with the provisions of the Act. The Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place. They are posted in the Star Ledger and Express Times and submitted to the Town Clerk, Town of Belvidere, January 10, 2019. Please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Thank you, Sean. We've reached the point in our agenda for our first public participation. There may be comments or questions from the public this evening. We have an executive session. We don't typically like to go in an exec at the beginning of a meeting, but due to the nature of tonight's agenda, it necessitates we have one at the beginning of our meeting. How long do we expect this to last?
I would say less than 15 minutes.
Okay. Do we have a motion to go in exec?
Motion. Second.
Is hereby resolved, the board will now go into executive discussion to discuss personnel and HIP matter. Any discussion held by the board that need not remain confidential. Confidential will be made as soon as public. will be.
We know what you
Yes. Any discussion held by the board which not remain confidential will be made public as soon as practicable. Minutes of the private session will not be disclosed until the named confidentiality no longer exists. The board will reconvene a public session at the conclusion of the closed session. Hopefully we'll be back out by 7:25-ish. Thank you. Okay, we're back in session. Again, our apologies for the executive session. Correspondence?
I'm going to do the correspondence.
Oh, okay, we do need to, I'm sorry, do we have a motion and a second to approve the HIP finding? Second. Discussion. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Shall I?
I'll read the correspondence.
Thank you.
This is a letter from the New Jersey School Boards Association. It is addressed to Mr. Brian Smith. Dear Brian, on behalf of the New Jersey School Boards Association, I want to express our great appreciation for your commitment to the student achievement in your community for the past 20 years. We would like to honor you at the Warren County School Boards Association Spring Meeting. We invite you, your fellow board members, business administrator, and superintendent to attend. And it gives you information about going online. We hope you'll be able to enjoy us. Sincerely, Marcia from School Board. So congratulations, Brian, on 20 years.
When is that?
I'll look up the date and I'll let everybody know.
Okay.
It's sometime early June.
Thank you, Brian. Any other correspondence?
That's the first one.
Superintendent report.
I do have a few things just to mention. I was at a workshop a week ago Friday, and it was on equity in the state of New Jersey. And I had gone under the precipice that it would talk a lot about the fair funding formula, which it did not, unfortunately. But there were some good points made, and one of the keynote speakers brought up this point, which I shared with the administrative team last week, which I thought was interesting, so I just shared it out loud. Our kids today that are probably in kindergarten and preschool, with the way life expectancy is going these days, will live into the 22nd century. So it has now become our job to prepare our students for now the 22nd century. And for some of us who were born in the 20th century and remember it well, we're starting to see those dates move forward. So I thought that was an interesting concept and something we talked about, and we talked about in finance and what are those jobs and what's going to exist 20, 50, and even now, 80 years from now. And think about the kids that are 4 and 5, and they're probably going to be working into their 80s.
They said 5-year-olds will not drive.
Yeah, so
They'll driverless cars.
yeah. So I just thought that was an interesting thing to start the meeting with. If you've been behind Oxford Street, you'll know that we broke ground finally on our playground. Hoping to have that up and running shortly after break. Everything seems to be moving along really well. The biggest part is the excavation piece of it, and then the company will come in and put that up, and we'll mulch it, and we have to put fencing around it. So we are off and running with that, so hopefully I'll be able to report at the next meeting we're open for business. I was finally able to log on today to school boards for my CSA evaluation. I was having a difficult time doing that. I reached out to Kathy from school boards, and she worked her magic like she often does. So hopefully by the end of middle of next week, I'll have everything up and running, maybe as early as Friday, depending on how the week goes. So you guys will be able to do that. So we'll stay on track to do the evaluation.
We'll be scheduling an executive session on that, probably in early June on Chris's evaluation. I'm away late June. I'll be out of the country, so I'd like to get it done before I leave. We certainly need to get it done before July 1st.
It needs to be done by before July 1st, because we'll be up for QSAC next year, and County Superintendent made a big point to remind everybody to get that done, so. And Shelley's contract being settled too by the same date.
Okay.
Just a reminder, we are full speed with spring break coming up. We start next Friday, we have half a day next Thursday, off the following week. Seems like it's been a long time since we've had any non-snow related breaks. I think everybody's looking forward to it, but the spring break is fully intact with the day that we took back from President's Day. Just like to report that Chris and Brian have been meeting with the Third Street staff and the Oxford Street staff in regards to the transition and the moving and the logistics of that. They've had a couple of meetings over the last week and a half. And I think we're basically ready to go, just waiting for the school year to complete and we'll start to move. Had a conversation with John Hoyt this afternoon about where the starting point is. Him and I both agree it's what came first, the chicken or the egg, where do you start? So hopefully by May we'll be able to tell everybody where we're going. Before our next board meeting on May 6th, we have another instructional council meeting. So if there's any issues that or topics you'd like to be discussed from the board's perspective, please let me know before that. We usually have a pretty good agenda, but there's always room for some.
That's before the board
things.
meeting, right?
What's that?
Right
Before the board meeting on the 6th. Mr. Blum had asked about administrative attendance, and I have a sheet on my desk for everyone that I forgot to bring. I wanted to bring it in, and I had that, so before everybody leaves, I'll have that. We have it up. So
Thank you.
it's for March.
Appreciate it.
And if we like it, then we're going to use it every month, and we'll go back and we'll do it every month. But Lorette put it together for me, and I left it right on my desk, so I apologize. I do have it. And then finally, I don't know if we'll talk about finance, but obviously we just want to mention that we'd like to have some direction on the budget tonight. We have every intention, Shelley and I discussed today, about getting our presentation out to everybody at least a week before the meeting. So that actually, when you do a time frame, it still sounds like it's far away, but that would be probably within 2 weeks, right? We get back from break, we'll have something out to everybody to be able to take a look at. And that is my report for tonight.
Questions for Chris? Being motion on policy items 1 through 6. Discussion. Brian, do you want to highlight? I mean, draw first reading. Anything you want to highlight?
Yeah, I sent an email to Chris before our March meeting. You have that email?
I do. Yep.
2324 mentioned an affirmative action resolution and a 3-year comprehensive equity plan and an annual report to the board. That seemed like that seemed foreign to me. Maybe we've done it.
Yep. I'll just real quick. The affirmative action resolution is every year at the beginning. We do that mass appointing of people into different positions. Jess McKinney has been and will continue to be our affirmative action officer, so she gets approved on that.
That satisfies that requirement?
That's that first January meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We actually did an equity plan last year. It had been the first time that we had to do one. The last one was definitely done by Dirk, so that's how long ago it was. We have to do another one by June 30th, so you'll see another one coming probably at the June board meeting. And I think that satisfies those one coming, correct? For that topic, yeah.
4111 and 4211 look the same to me. I don't know whether that can be resolved. I don't think we need to belabor it because this is only first reading, but I think if you can figure out what the difference is between those two, because I was sent 2 policies, the policy committee was sent 2 policies. 4111 and 4211 look exactly the same.
You know what it is? I can tell you right now. One of them, 4111 is specific to teaching staff, 4211 is specific to instructional aides, and then other staff, non-certificate staff.
In 4111, page 2, there was the reference to the board appointing teaching staff members only from, and the quote is only from selections made by the CSA. But my comment is, we have a personnel committee that endorses candidates for employment. So I just wanted it to be made clear that the division of labor, when it comes to appointing
So
staff members.
And our motions often read as recommended by.
As recommended
Yeah.
by the
But I think the spirit of that is, and I don't know, you can probably jump in on it, the spirit of that is, the board itself can't produce a candidate.
We can only
Yeah.
approve or.
Without your recommendation,
Correct.
or, yeah, okay.
Correct.
That's
So the way
right.
we do it by bringing it to personnel, it certainly fits within that as a discussion, but you wouldn't be able to say, you know, like today, I want to hire Sean as the social studies teacher. Down the bus.
In 4111.2 domestic, the domestic violence policy, 4111.2. I presume Lorette
Yeah, so it'll be the building.
inserted the name or it will be inserted?
Yeah, building principal will be the person who will be contacted in case of an issue of domestic violence.
Okay. Thanks, that's all I have.
Brian, thank you. Kristen? Any other discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Can we get a motion on personnel items 7 through
Motion.
10? Discussion. Oh, I'm
Up to
still
10.
on 7 through 10. That's okay. Any questions, discussion on personnel 7 through 10? Shelley, roll call, please.
Mr. Lund?
Yes.
Mrs. Pino?
Yes.
Dr. Zucker?
Yes.
Mr. LeBar?
Yes.
Mr. Matlock?
Yes.
Mr. McInerney?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mrs. Pell?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Stefan?
Yes.
And Mrs. Mitchell? Yes.
Just really quick, for number 7, with the appointment of Ryan, if you just want to stand up so everybody can place a face to the name, that is our new Director of Special Services.
Ryan, congratulations. So do we. Thank you. On education, and we have revisions on items 12 and 13. Can we get a motion on, it's 11 through 16 with 12 and 13 revised?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion?
Good. The travel cost for my trip to Atlantic City, $443. So that's inclusive of that.
Hotel, mileage, program,
Oh,
incidentals.
we'll pocket change that. No, that's just, but most of it's for work.
See, it wasn't me who questioned it. I was letting you go.
Any other questions?
Number 14,
Mary Ann?
approve establishment of a softball booster club. I'm confused. We don't approve any other booster clubs. We know nothing about the operations of any of our booster clubs. I feel like this is, saying, hey, we agree and it's good, so next time there's a big issue, we're gonna be liable. So what are we really doing here?
So Stable, you wanna handle that one?
Good to hear.
You can.
No, I don't think I can say all that again. I said, what are we doing with number 14 with establishing a softball booster? My contention is we never voted on any of the other booster clubs. We have no clue what all the other booster clubs do. We don't get involved in all the other booster clubs. So what's the plan?
Just the creation of it, I think it was because of things that happened, just to make sure that they wanted to avoid going through the associated accounts that they have in other than the booster club, so the problem would happen in the future. I just wanted to make sure they had board support to do that.
So So currently they don't have a booster club, Marianne, for
There's
softball
no
specifically.
booster club right now currently for,
I think we had approved others when they first established. We don't approve, we approve covering booster clubs for insurance purposes each year.
Right, but that's all I mean,
But this is new establishment of a booster.
yeah, they never
this says
had-
they're gonna have bylaws and they're gonna have financial accounting. We have that on none of the other boosters.
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
Can I get a copy of that, please, on all of them? Because the board is supposed to get a yearly financial statement from all of the booster clubs, which I haven't gotten since I've been back, and I didn't get it before I came back.
Usually they submitted financials in June, but I've been getting them at the end of every season. So I have everything from the Thursday.
Perfect. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see the bylaws of all booster clubs as well.
Yep.
Thank
And
you.
if I could make a request, actually, I think to everybody on the board, so if we could go through Shelley, maybe include
Yep.
it with the next package. Is
Yep,
that
that's
okay,
fine.
Marianne?
Yeah, you can
Okay.
even email them to save the trees, you know what I mean? Don't print any of
I
them.
have
Yeah.
more copies for both of the plans and for some of the things that.
Well,
I'll get you everything I got.
You good,
Thank you.
Marianne?
Mhm.
Any other questions? Yes.
Marianne, part of that is that the softball booster club, it's girls softball, and they do not have a booster club, they do fundraisers. And without being approved as a booster club, they can do fundraisers.
Well, see, that's where it gets complicated. We're supposed to approve all the fundraisers. We approve none of the other booster club fundraisers. So this is what I'm saying, we're doing something, this is like establishing a new policy almost, when none of the other ones do it. So we gotta get them all on the same page if this is what we're gonna do.
So, I know there's always a lot going on, but this does raise some good points. So, first is to kind of regroup in terms of where we are with boosters across the district and a uniform practice across the district as well. So, how much, I know that's easier said than done,
Sure.
but how much time would you need to meet with Brian and others on that, Chris?
We can make that a priority, right, Brian? We'll try to iron out, hopefully by, we can present something May 6th. Well, let's not say May 6th because it's a busy
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah.
But the second meeting in May. we'll have
Second
something
meeting in May?
together.
That's fine.
That's, you good with
Which I
that?
believe
Yep.
is 22nd.
Absolutely.
Okay,
We'll have something together by the 22nd.
good, and we, including policy,
Correct.
okay, okay. Anything else on that? Other questions, other items? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? On business, items 17 through 21, can we get a motion in a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Identifying
Oh.
what the salary guide is being approved and being.
Correct. So the motion on 18 is to ratify the BEA agreement for period of 2018 to 2021, and Shelley, you will be attaching to the minutes too as well, the salary guide that we will be approving,
Text staff salary guides.
staff salary guides. And the athletic and co-curricular are being held pending further analysis. Discussion?
Question on number 20, check number 19942. Those are replacement checks to the state of New Jersey. Can that money be transferred by bank instead of checks written out?
I'm gonna have to look at which checks we're referring to.
It's, the first one's on the check register.
I just don't have that for you. What were those numbers?
19942. For pension checks. Back on. So the questions can be sent electronically rather than written. Did I
Specific on
say
the
that right?
particular submissions for the, I can look into it.
State reimbursement for the Social Security, it is,
Yeah, it's a yearly.
yearly.
Those submissions,
That way we wouldn't have to worry about lost checks.
yeah, I just have to see if they allow it. It's pretty specific on their form, how we have to submit things.
Okay.
We do quite a few things with the state, which are through just online EFTs, but not all of them. And
Okay.
they specify which one they.
Gotcha.
And that one I know is attachments that are signed off by myself and the auditor when we submit that, so they're still gonna want to paper with it.
Right.
But I can,
Thank you, Shelley. Any other questions on business? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I vote present on 18 and abstain on 20.
Mr. Lawrence is on 18, and Mr. Blanc
Present on 18.
present on
Present.
18, and abstain on
20.
Continuing business.
I just mentioned the CSA evaluation, and you and I had discussion this morning on
Foundation.
the foundation. We're gonna put out a all call next week with a couple of reminders, including spring break, and we'll mention that we're looking for some community members to be a part of the foundation and see how quickly we can get that up and moving.
Any
The
other-
Alumni Association would be a good contact. And perhaps the Hall of Fame, the committee there.
Hall or wall? The wall of fame?
The Wall of Fame,
Hall,
yeah.
Hall of Fame. Any other continuing business?
Quick question,
No.
when are we actually presenting the budget? Is that at our next meeting?
May 6th,
Is there any meetings in between there?
throw it out.
So, we're gonna discuss, I think you guys discussed that finance, the thought of giving money back to the taxpayers from the additional aid that we receive from the state. Do we have a discussion on that, or is there any thoughts?
Who's the chair of the finance committee?
Chair of the finance is
Doc.
Doc. So you want to handle it, Doc? So, I'll handle it. So, yeah, we did discuss in detail in finance. We received, as folks know, an additional $32,000 in additional state aid. I know, Don, you had brought it up at the last meeting about maybe potentially giving that back to taxpayers. We also looked at the fact that, discussed the fact that the district's been underfunded for a number of years, and that was the reason why we received the $32,000. There was a lot of, I'll say, consternation within various districts throughout the state with the new funding formula. Some districts feel that they benefited from the funding formula. Other districts feel that they were severely impacted, adversely impacted by the funding formula. I testified, not on this issue, on a separate issue at the Assembly budget hearing on March 27th. And there were several districts in attendance. Some of those districts brought fairly large contingents of students with them to the hearing. And some districts are feeling, again, very upset about the funding formula. We know, or I shouldn't say we know, it's our opinion, and I think it could be supported through the fact that the district has been underfunded for a long time, and this is finally an opportunity to kind of right-size some of the funding. So right now, the consensus, not uniform, but the general consensus coming out of finance was to look at what other needs, pressing needs, still exist within the district before we would make a decision about returning that money back to the tax base or doing something else with that money where it wouldn't be utilized for a pressing district need. And there's been some discussion about what we need to do around additional curriculum for non-college bound students. So that came up in discussion again tonight, Marianne. I know you've been championing that issue. I feel I've brought it up in the past too. I think there's several people on the board that feel that way. There's discussion around whether or not we need to do more with a school safety office, an additional school safety officer, since all of our students are going to be between these two buildings. This will be our campus for the district, so that's a consideration. And we've also discussed what are we doing around gifted accountant as another option, because I think that sometimes an argument can be made that some of those students have been maybe shortchanged in the past, and especially at the younger levels. And we have a lot of parents of younger students in the town, which is great, but we want to make sure that they feel that they're getting their value in terms of education, and that they can see their child going through Belvidere right through high school as well. So, did I miss anything in that discussion? Is that a good recap?
Just respectfully, I appreciate that explanation. We don't have another meeting between now and then as we present it, but it's what we were still discussing, so I'm not sure when that discussion happens. But I respectfully disagree, and I cannot vote for a budget that doesn't have enough to back the taxpayers. So I hope that any other people living here in Belvidere would think the same way.
I'm with Donnie, especially since I know that we've saved $1.1 million, or we're proposing to save $1.1 million of taxpayer money that the taxpayers have kicked in, and they've kicked in every year that we've asked them to, and they kicked in a lot extra last year. Now we have a surplus, and we're not going to give anything back. I cannot support that budget either.
I agree with my fellow board members. I think it's time that we show some consideration to our taxpayers. They have suffered tremendously.
Any other discussion on this point? I don't know if we need to have another finance meeting before
I would suggest this. I'll speak again as I did in executive as one person's opinion of 14 and a non-voting member. I thought we came out of the meeting with the discussion that we were not going to give the money back. And for the reasons that you mentioned, Sean, I look at it this way. I understand you're coming from Marianne. We've put a lot of effort into trying to consolidate a lot of things to save some money. And we recognize that with that $32,000, there's a lot we can do. So respectfully, I think that it is important to keep it within the budget. I disagree with the exception of your statement about last year. I think we've run relatively efficiently over the last years. We looked at that 10-year breakdown again. But I'm not going to disagree that
I'm not
last year.
saying we didn't run efficiently. I'm just saying we've had to go back to the taxpayers, and especially last year, we went back for almost 4%.
Understood, and I'm not disagreeing with that. But I'm also looking at it from a futuristic point of view. And I said this in the committee, again, it's my opinion, it's not my crystal ball. This $32,000 that the state gives us goes back, we won't see it again. And I think it's time that we take an opportunity and actually put it into some programs that we've talked about that we still neglect.
What about the 1.1 million? What are we doing with that?
We're running the school district.
No, we have extra, we have
Hold on a second.
1.1 million, theoretically, it's 1.1 million more this fiscal year than we had last fiscal year. So that needs to be accounted for.
Marion, you know we count for everything.
I know, but I'm just saying, I want to see.
But it's not as if we just have $1.1 million sitting over here. Again, we've been through finance.
I know.
So for us to operate efficiently, we had to make concessions that will ultimately equal out to the 1.1 million. So if we didn't do any of those things, we would be cutting staff significantly this year moving forward. You get the nature of the beast.
I get it. I know. I'm not disagreeing. I think maybe we did need to cut staff, and we screwed around for 9 months and haven't done that either. So there's a lot of issues, and I really think we need to give money back to the taxpayers.
I'll say this. I will 100% disagree saying we've screwed around for 9 months. And you've been in a lot of committee meetings that we've done a lot of work, and I think that's a completely unfair statement. We have done a lot over the last 9 months.
Yes,
You
hold
want to
on.
say that years before?
Hold
I
on.
wouldn't even argue with you.
Wait a minute. We started in September with looking at where we're going with staffing. We switched that over to closing 3rd Street, and have not looked at staffing, period. Have not looked at it.
Marion, we know for sure we're losing a couple of staff members. I'm not sure how you can justify that statement.
We didn't look at it. I don't know if I can justify it or not. We did not look at it. We started to look at it and never did. That's what I'm saying.
We've been looking at this all the way around. You've gotten schedules updated. Chris isn't here. You probably said what it's
He was supposed to send me one after the last meeting because he changed everything all around again.
Right.
I haven't seen it.
But to sit there and say we haven't looked at that, I don't
We
think that's
haven't.
fair.
This is what I'm saying. We have not sat down in a meeting and gone over that. The meeting we were supposed to sit down and go over it was the meeting in December when it came back with let's close 3rd Street.
These were the staff pieces that go along with that, correct?
There were no staff pieces that went along with it.
Yes, there were. They were 100%.
We did get a packet of staff assignments.
Yeah, and that shows
And they're
some
wrong,
reductions.
but he changed everything all around.
But not who was being reduced from that staffing.
We haven't reduced anybody.
Yes, we have. We absolutely have.
I mean, we can't say, we can't go any farther with that conversation because we'd have to name somebody and we
Correct.
can't. So we got to stop right there.
That's why, you're right.
But I have been in every one of those meetings. And we have not discussed staff reductions in my mind. We have changed it to let's close Third Street.
Okay, I
We never
disagree
got
with
to the high school. We have not looked at the high school, period.
that. I think it's been a part, this is me, I think it's been a part of the discussion all the way
It
through.
has not.
And
So
there's
that's
other
why-
members of the curriculum committee here who can either agree or disagree with me, but I think that's been part of the discussion.
Yeah, I haven't, we have not looked at any numbers of how many kids are in classes, how many, what the teachers are doing. We have not looked at any of that in high school, period.
I just-
So,
I think one thing that might be helpful just to kind of help just refresh where we are with this discussion is including with the next board package, the list of the staff reductions again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because there are staff reductions, Mary Ann. And,
Maybe because I'm not on finance and personnel, I don't know those.
I don't know, but I can tell you for a fact, I know that there are staff reductions, so, but that could be reduced to writing and included in the package.
Absolutely, because like I said, as a
That's
curriculum
fine.
member, we don't have it.
now, Mr. Kruby, you said we may not see that $32,000 again. Why do you say that?
I'm just going by, and I shared this with the finance committee. The meeting I was in, the commissioner was there. And certainly the commissioner's office, more than anybody, is getting a lot of pressure on both sides of this, the S2 formula, which is the new formula that just came out last year. And you look just to our neighbors right next door who are losing significant amount of money, that are down there lobbying for that money. The commissioner said nicely, we're gonna look at that every year, we're gonna look at every dollar and where it's going and where it's going. And I just, to me, again, I'm just giving an opinion, Mr. Gormley, and
I understand
I
what you're
think you
saying.
get that.
I see your basis for your comment.
that's where I'm seeing that coming from, that they're gonna look at it and say, okay, I'm sure White Township would love to have that $32,000.
Certainly it's plausible. We don't know.
We don't know,
Certainly
and
it's
it could be,
plausible.
they could say, that okay, that's what you chose to do with it, that's what you chose to do with it, we're gonna continue on. What is a 5-year to 7-year plan, probably more in the 7-year range now that they've had a lot of pushback from the not getting this.
Do we have to account to them for the $32,000 specifically?
We have to account for our budget, we're trying to.
What I mean, the
figure out-
32,000.
Well, the county, the budget goes into the county, so the entire budget has to be accounted for.
Correct.
Yeah, but not
Right.
specifically the 32,000.
They know whether we are, the county office themselves,
I don't care about the county office.
well, that's where our.
That's
revenue-
where, that's who
we-
from the
it's
state
a
looks at the
simple
money.
question I'm asking.
The answer is yes.
Do we specifically have to account for the 32,000?
So is your question like how is that money utilized? Is that your
Yes,
question?
sir.
In the budget,
Yes.
that's part of the entire state aid number. And then in the budget, you have to lay out whether you're having tax increase, a tax decrease, flat tax increase.
So-
That's where they see it.
So I'm
Tax effect.
deducing from what you're saying that it's a global accounting. Am I wrong?
There's a total state tax, or
It's a
total
total
state
accounting.
aid number.
Thank you, I'll stop my talking.
Don, you had a question? or a comment?
I just want to, rather than
Yeah.
getting heated here, it's just, will there be an opportunity for further discussion before the next meeting or not? Or are we just saying at this point now about revisiting it?
What would you like to see happen? You want to see finance meet again, or what are you asking?
I'm just, if it doesn't change, I'm not voting for it. I'd like to see it discussed before we have that meeting.
Well, I think you have the opportunity to discuss it right here, right? I mean, this is,
It's the finance committee.
I think I think with Blum's, I think that was kind of my question in the meeting, maybe I'm wrong, but do we have to specifically account for the $32,000, like we said? Can we look at other parts of the budget, cutting other parts of the budget, so that we can use the $32,000 for the security and other things, but then also give money back?
at the end of the day, we're going to be presenting a budget that's $32,000 less than whether it's the county office or the state, the county office is the conduit to the state is expecting from the voters. So however you want to shuffle it, in whatever account you put it, we're still going to be $32,000.
We will.
So
But
yeah, so
I
there you
think
go.
that was the question, like, do we have to specifically account for that
At
$32,000?
this point, they have not sent an email. There are times that they'll get an email from the county office that says the state is requiring this information, what did you do with this?
Mhm.
That happens various times. That has not happened yet this year for those funds, but we're still in preliminary budget.
Because I'd love to do what we discussed, putting money back into the school. We definitely need more, programs. We've discussed the security. Are there other things in the budget that maybe aren't at the top of those 3 priority lists that we can maybe cut in the budget to also give back to the taxpayer, as well as meet those 3 priorities? And that's what we can look at. We can.
I'm from outside of Belvidere. What's the per capita cost of that one
2 cents. Roughly 2
It
pennies.
comes down to $31 for a year on an average annual, an average assessed house in Belvidere, which in discussing finance is $2.58 per month.
It's more than that, though. It's not just the dollar amount. It's the message we send to the taxpayers that we are being fiscally responsible with their money. And when we have a windfall, we're going to give some back. And when we need money, we ask them for more. It's a give and take relationship, and there's a trust that the taxpayers have in us school board members to take care of their money. It's a stewardship, and we need to do that. And that's why I will not vote for a budget that does not give some dollar amount back to the taxpayers.
Marion, I agree. Like I said, I'm just saying what my opinion is. If the board decides that 32,000 goes back to the taxpayers, we'll adjust the budget. I'm not sitting here and saying.
No, I know.
It has to be the
This-
30.
this was a-
I'm just saying, if you ask me what my opinion is, I just think we can use that money to really improve
Well,
some of
crap,
our
yeah, we could raise taxes another 10 cents, and we could use that money too.
We
But
could,
do
but
we
we
need
don't,
it?
but we choose not to do that.
Are we going out to dinner when we could eat at home, is my question.
This was a lengthy discussion by all the finance committee members, and it was discussed that this money, we received it in aid because we were underfunded before. And we looked back and we said, okay, you look at how we raised taxes before, we have not always gone to 2%. We still have over $100,000 in bank cap that we could tax the taxpayers on. So while we were underfunded, we did not always go to 2%, and we did not always use the additional amounts we could have taxed the taxpayers. So we didn't always take the money from the taxpayer when we were underfunded. So therefore, now that we've gotten some of the funding back, it does not necessarily mean it's an actual one-to-one give back. Now, last year, we did utilize
Well, I'm not
some
asking
back.
for, if I was asking for a one-to-one give back, I'd be looking at like $500,000, $700,000. We're talking about 32,000, which is peanuts compared to what our budget is. But it's the message that it sends to the taxpayers of Belvidere.
And it was 100% discussed, 100% valid, but it was also discussed what message does that send to the state that you gave us the money back and then.
Don't give them, so let's not do 32, let's do 35,000, because then it's not that 32,000 we got, it's 35,000 we got somewhere else.
Tom and Sandy, taxpayer out there, they know we closed Third Street. They know we're saving $250,000 on that. They know we're getting $32,000 more, and we can't cut their taxes a trivial? Come on.
This is all the discussion. Then the other part of the discussion is, we also met with Hope and White and Harmony and said, what is the plan for the school? Do we want to grow the school? And they said, yes, we'll pay an additional $200 per student that we're sending here if we can grow our programs. Those are schools that are losing money, and now they're paying higher tuition, and it doesn't help our future growing our tuition students coming in if we don't grow our school with the funds that we have. I mean, this was the back and forth.
No,
You know,
I understand,
We're
I get
losing
it.
money, but we're paying you more tuition so that you invest in your school, but now you've got money that you were underfunded from before, and you're providing that back to your taxpayers as opposed to growing your school. It's clearly, you can see the good on both sides, I would say.
Our only request
It's
was
just
this.
a
Our only
board
request
meeting
was,
makes a decision to let us know what
Yeah.
they want us to do.
if the board's decision is to cut 32, 35, we, as we always do, Marion, we'll work with that. We're not gonna sit here, we're not gonna pick our ball and go home, we don't do that. We just wanna know tonight, to Don's point, because we're not gonna meet again. And there's really not a good opportunity to meet again, so we can have that discussion. So if the board as a whole decides 32, 35, whatever it is, please not 500,000, by the way, goes back to the taxpayers, that's fine. Our point is, I made my point, just how I feel like you have, is anybody else can do that. Just let us know, because if it means that, and listen, Catherine's points will take, and it's too, 32,000, we can kind of figure that out relatively quick. We don't want to be figuring it out on May 6th.
The night of the meeting.
That's
No,
really,
no,
that's
I
the
get
only, that's the only
That's
conversation
not,
piece.
that's not the way to do budget.
That's
Yeah.
Can we sit on it and then,
This is the thing,
No,
I
you
can't.
cannot sit
I
on
get
it,
that,
what
but
are we
you-
waiting for?
but you
What's
sent
going
an
to
email
change?
before, a few days later and saying, yeah,
We shouldn't be doing that. It's
This is, yeah,
It's
something
part
should
of
be on the
public
public,
discussion.
it's part of
It
the,
needs to be
part of the
public.
public
Yeah.
she's
conversation.
asking.
Yeah.
The softball thing was different because it was a little more, it was timing and when to get the thing open.
Yeah.
This is, we should make the decision tonight because it's,
Okay.
we can move forward and we can figure it out one way or the other.
We
So-
also had, Chris and I met with Mayor Kennedy and we discussed, he had said, well, what if it's just part of the 32, what if it's half of it, or what if it's a third of it? I mean, if there's any numbers the board can pick, somebody can say, motion, see what the board's take is.
Well, I think we could reach a consensus if those who haven't spoke up.
I'm looking at a room that we spend 30,000 right now just to update.
What a vote, we go back to
Well,
the
just
taxpayers.
to be clear, we're not voting.
We're not- yeah.
So, just to be clear, but just in terms of what direction you'd like to see them go with the budget.
I think it should go back to the taxpayers.
There's a number of options that we talked about. One way you could add a security officer. It would be complicated. We didn't decide on any of those. Also, you could have athletic fields and those type of things that are not in the budget. And I think that probably we should meet again as a finance committee to go over those again as to what we can do. But I think that that money that came from the state, the extra $30 billion, use that to add to the programs that we have. So no, I would say let's keep that in the budget.
I'm good with what Bob just said. And that's the finance committee's consensus as well. The money needs to be used for educational purposes when it's available. If we were talking about a huge amount of money coming back to us, I might feel differently. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
I think we also have an obligation to the taxpaying parents who have kids here.
We do.
Marianne, your opinion's pretty clear, so.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna say it more.
I don't think we need to, I don't think I need any more clarification around that.
No, I agree with Doc and Brian that it should stay with the education, and I'd much rather see us improve our programs or add. With this, exactly like you said, with the small amount it is.
Bob, I think your opinion's pretty clear, so. Catherine?
I would like to give money back to the taxpayers and improve our programs and look somewhere else in the budget that we can cut to do both.
So that's a third option that, we did bring that up in finance to take a look at, are there any other one-time expenditures that could be deferred? So.
I think we need to do both, and I don't know.
Do both being, say again, Catherine?
We need to put money into the school because we're losing numbers, and that will affect their cost of tuition. So
Well, all
I
the
think,
money in the budget is going into the school.
Yeah.
So there's not really an option for you. It's either, do you want that $32,000 to be going towards the school, or do you want to give it to us? We can shift around what we're spending it on.
well,
but
that's
it's
why I'm
all
saying,
still
that's why I was
invested in the
asking
school.
about the priorities, like, if
What
we,
we spend it on, what the priority is as far as how we're investing it. We don't have that money, it's not going anywhere else in the school.
As a
So it's
sending
one or the
district,
other.
and you have said this, and it's been brought up in our own meetings, where other board members in white have said, why are we paying all of this when it's cheaper to go to Phillipsburg and they have more programs? So if we have $32,000 to put into a program, I'm sure that it's probably come up with Tony, and it's probably come up with Hope, the same decision. Well, let's look at it. We all know it's a cumbersome process to pull, but one day, if you are not competitive with what those other school districts can give, then you may be finding yourself at a loss for 200 to 300 students.
Well, I'll take it. So Catherine, I'm not clear about where you stand. I
Well, that-
apologize.
option 3 is not an option? That's confirmed?
Option 3 is always an option in the sense of the budget is what it is. We could sit down
Transfer money.
at any point and say, we budgeted $30,000 for a parking lot, but we realize it might be better spent over here.
Yeah, so it
That's
could
a
be
given.
better spent back into the programs if we don't do it there, and then we can give the
Right.
32,000 back.
But the point is you're either going to give the $32,000 back or you're not. We can adjust otherwise
We,
above and beyond. You
we
see
have
the
to,
point?
we have to set a ceiling.
Yeah.
That's part of the budget process is to.
Well, then I would, if we can look at other parts in the budget and prioritize exactly what we want to spend, then I would be for giving back the 32,000 to
Well,
the
can I just make one comment here? Because I think we go round and round. Marianne knows I'm going to go with this comment. We've been doing that the whole budgeting process. So I don't want it to be on the public, like we just pick a number and then we're just gonna work on it. We have sat there and prioritized, we have sat there and talked about what's important. For months. So to sit there and say, let's look at it, it's, okay, we can certainly look at it again in a different way, but we've been looking at this all the way through since we started the process, whether it's classes, whether it's we need a parking lot, whether we don't. We have been looking at it, so to sit there and say, let's look at it, puts this tone that we're not looking at it. We are.
Well, no, I'm not saying we haven't looked
We
at
can
it, but I'm
revisit-
just saying in light
We
of
don't, that's,
everybody tonight.
my point is that's irrelevant to the conversation about the 32,000, because we're gonna do that anyway. We're gonna always look at the budget and where we are and what our priorities are, especially when we get to that July 1st point and we start that new budget and you're saying, okay, do we really, maybe a teacher retires or we don't expect, and then there's, so that happens. That's not.
And I know we're looking at it, we've discussed it, but in light of all of it, both sides tonight, maybe like Doc said, we should have another meeting and look at it again, one more time.
That's fine. That's, I think we're all on that same page.
Yeah, and I'm not saying we haven't looked at it, I know we've
Right.
discussed all that, but
Our
just with,
revenue number is gonna be set, once the budget comes through, we either have $32,000 extra in the budget to be spent on whatever programs are prioritized, or we're not. So that's what I think what we're trying to get to a vote on. Do we want that
It's got
money
to be
or
signed
not?
first.
I'm going to suggest a work session over this issue, and not just the finance committee.
So a full board meeting.
A full board meeting work session. I think it's important enough that we talk about it in detail.
Seems like we're sort of having right now.
I think that's kind of.
Yeah, we're having the discussion right now.
Just,
Not,
we're looking at like 6 for keeping it as a 5 then. So if we'll go to a vote, it's not a, you don't need 7 votes, right? It would just be voted to
It's not-
keep the budget as
it's
is.
not a personal matter.
Right,
Yeah.
so that's where we stand right now. I think the motion,
Right.
that's where we stand, right? So it's,
And I look at it this way, and we want to have another meeting. That's fine. I just don't know we're going to come up with a different conclusion.
Yeah.
Is really what it comes down to. And I think that's what the whole point. And that's why Marianne, we've been going at it for a couple of years. So it's
Yeah.
not. It's just but when I hear we haven't really looked at this and we haven't done.
It's kind of charged.
It's actually, I would
Yeah.
probably argue this year more than any year, we have really since September, really been tearing this budget apart to put together something that not only does it work for the taxpayers, and I said this to Joe Kennedy the other day, and I think Joe would agree. People forget that we pay taxes too. We don't get a free ride because we're superintendent of the year. I get where the tax dollar goes. So I do understand that piece of it. But we also want to make sure that our school is competitive, and to Colleen's point, is well taken, that if we can't compete, and it may not even be sending kids to Phillipsburg, but maybe 10 more kids go to Tech. And then also we're in a much different situation. So that's
They're
just
also cheaper than we are.
What's that?
They're cheaper than we are.
Yes,
So
they
we're
are.
putting another
Guess we get the money
$32,000
from
into our
people.
school budget, which is gonna transfer back to you guys. Because the more money we spend, the more money you guys gotta pay. That's how it works.
Was there a budget established without the 32,000?
There was a budget established without the 32,000. We went with flat rate.
I think that the board should examine that budget with the budget that has the $32,000, examine the accounts, and make a decision. That
That's what
way,
the finance committee did tonight.
the finance committee did. But again, I'm proposing an open meeting. An open work session.
Yeah, to me, I understand what Mr. Baum is saying. My question is, to what's the end? It really is the question that, if it's gonna be that we're gonna pull the 32,000 out, just make that, we'll pull the 32,000 out.
Just make that decision.
Or are we gonna still be at a 6-5 vote, whether we have a full meeting or not? Because we're operating on a time frame, on a specific time frame to get this done. We've been having this conversation for months. So if the board wants to, absolutely have it. I mean, I'm not discouraging that, but my question is, what becomes the outcome that we can't have this discussion right now?
I make a motion that we vote on having a work session on this matter.
We have a motion to have a work session on the
We need
budget.
a timeline, because the budget
Yeah.
has to happen by May 6th, that's our last day.
So when is break here?
2 weeks.
What dates? I'm sorry.
It's in a week, a week and 2 days.
16th through the 29th.
18 through the 29th.
Thank you.
After the annual meeting.
So this work session, and we're gonna get a second on the, we're gonna ask for a second on the motion, I just wanna clarify before we ask for a second, would have to happen. Because we have to also we also have to notice a meeting, so that's.
8:40
so-
hours.
Yeah, so we're really looking at the 15th as potential dates, and I don't know what that conflicts with your schedule, Chris. So what are the dates that don't conflict with other responsibilities you have?
I'm booked out on the 6th.
Your books.
I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist.
Work with me here.
I'm fine next Wednesday.
The 17th.
17th would work for me. May 1st would be fine.
So the 17th is a possibility, and May 1st is a
Is
possibility.
it possible to not do it on a Wednesday?
Well,
Because I lose-
there's not gonna be a lot of days here, Mary Ann.
Well,
but-
then I probably won't make it because I can only miss 2 weldings and this is the second one. And I'm not gonna miss my certification I paid for it.
I can do the 29th, that would work.
What do I think?
The 29th on Monday? Is that right? No, wait.
That's, yeah.
So 17th is the only day before the 29th that would work, Chris?
And Mary Ann, you said that's
That
not
doesn't
good
work.
for
Is
you.
there anything in between 17th?
What's wrong with the 18th?
I have a meeting at 4:30 that is down in Voorhees, and I don't know that I'll be back in time. That's just. but
What's
again,
wrong with the 16th?
I have a family commitment that evening.
What time will it be?
Well, we have to pick a date first before we try to get to a
I was
time.
gonna say the 18th, I'm down for Voorhees too.
What time, what, 4:30, what time, 7 o'clock? Is that too late?
Wait a second, I don't think we've settled on a date yet before we get to a time, have we?
Well, I'm just asking if he could make it on the 18th.
Well, what are the other
If
two
it was later.
people's take on it? Like, where are
Well,
they?
I'm just thinking, other than dates, I mean, what are we gonna, we need to have parameters around the meeting, right? What are we gonna accomplish at this meeting? Because the
Whether they
discussion
can.
is whether we give money back or not. At the meeting, I guess we could look at the budget and see,
I
but
mean, so far,
that can always
everybody
be
that
done
spoke sounds
afterwards.
like they're pretty, they know what they wanna do. So
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, so that.
That was kind of my point, like, I'll come and sit in a meeting, I don't mind, but I'm just, to what end? That
If the
you can
decision's
settle.
made to get back,
Rich,
They
I
can
don't have
figure out
strong
where to
word
put
for
it.
Catherine's opinion.
Oh, well, I support the work that was done in the finance committee. Certainly, I mean, there's always opportunities to, if there are opportunities, like I asked the question, I think Catherine picked up on it too, that if there are any one-time expenses that we feel that we could defer, I mean, obviously, I think that would be something that the board would take into serious consideration. So if there's a chance, maybe without the benefit of having, without consuming so much time and trying to organize a meeting, just to take a look at those one-time expenses and seeing if there is anything that could be deferred to next year.
I mean, that would just be, okay, now as you're saying, okay, security officer is maybe more important than something else that we talked about. That's a simple line item, Jennifer, that we make those decisions
Right.
throughout the year at all times. They're not governed by a May 6th deadline.
No,
What's
because,
governed by the May 6th deadline is what's the final number of our budget?
right,
Right.
Right.
And that's my point, again, I'm not trying to, I'm just saying, if the mandate is to cut the 32,000, we can do that. That's not, and again, we can discuss where it came from at a different point. That's really the conversation. Our only point was, if we're gonna do it, just let us know so we'll work on that, we'll figure out where that priority lies. That's really what the conversation was. I wasn't trying to say, don't do it. I'm just saying, if we have a work session, is it gonna be still, and I think that's Don's question, is it gonna be, we're gonna cut the 32 or not cut the 32, or we're gonna cut more, we're gonna cut, what's the end game that we couldn't settle while we're all right here?
Specifics.
Who
The
can do that?
devil's in the detail.
I know.
In the budget that you've been presented, we've
But-
seen it twice.
I understand what you're saying, Mr.
The devil's in the detail.
But my question,
What details?
yeah, my question is, are you still looking for you're looking for to take the money, give, and if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. You want to give the money back to the taxpayers, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so whether or not you have the entire budget line by line,
Which you have.
your opinion will stay the same. You want to give the money back, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you see what my point is of what's the outcome?
doesn't really require so much of a meeting necessarily, as opposed to just identifying where that reduction could come from.
we only have one more to vote and either already
We don't
happened,
even
so.
need an work one, because like Mr. Plum said, we already have a balanced budget without that $32,000, so it's not, it's just, everybody has to make a decision, you want it or you don't
Yeah,
want
you
it.
see where I'm coming from, Mr. Bill? I know what your point is, so, and I'm not discounting that, but I don't know that we need a full meeting to do that. If the board wants to go in the direction of reducing it and give, absolutely, we'll do that. Shelley and I, when we meet the administrative team, we'll pick out those points. And we'll present that and we'll say, on May 6th, the 32,000, this is what we.
I'm gonna take it right back off the lines I added it to the day we got it.
Yeah,
It's
fine.
not-
Did everyone, Shelley, did everyone lay in?
Catherine has not made a decision.
I'm sorry.
Catherine
Oh.
has not.
She ran to the bathroom, I think.
Just did.
Unless I missed it.
No, I don't think she
I'm not
did.
sure.
She wants the third one.
She's likely to, vote to give it back if budgets can be changed.
But
But
we
that's
know the
still
budget,
only
yeah.
five, six, five, so.
Always.
Budgets can always be revised.
I would suggest making a motion to give, to return the 32,000 to taxpayers and have that discussion now. I mean, I think that's more appropriate.
I'll make the motion.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Make that motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we give the money back to the taxpayer.
I'll second that one.
Discussion.
I think that's
Now
what
we've
it
heard
is.
it come back.
Yeah.
We're talking about pivoting on that. People are talking about giving, we just kind of filling in where you think the overeducated is going.
I don't think it's a matter of overeducating. I
We're
think
talking about adding maybe something for the non-college bound student. We're talking about adding some gifted talent, possibly adding security. What areas do you think we're spending too much money on students?
Don't ask me that question, because we'll be here all night.
Well, I don't disagree, it goes into the children. But if my taxes go up any higher, I will not be living on welfare.
discussing it at some point.
I know, well,
Zero.
I'm telling you, I'll be out of this town. I cannot afford it.
We need to bring people back into the town of Belvidere. We need students in the school and we need people to buy the homes. And with the way the taxes go in the town of Belvidere, people are not wanting to come here. Nobody's beating down our door to move into the town. We're on a committee to try and increase enrollment. There's more houses empty here than there has been in, the last 10 years. People don't want to move in. The first thing you do is you look at the school district and you look at the taxes. And when you see our taxes, bye-bye, I'm out of here.
But I think that's up to the town, that's not up to us.
We're the biggest part of the town budget.
51%.
We are, however, we're also educating the kids that they want to move in here. So they're not gonna move here if our education isn't as good as.
$32,000 isn't going to make it any better. It isn't going to make it any worse.
And it's not going to help the taxes when they look at that house and say, what's my taxes? Oh, it's gone down by $2.
When they read the articles that say that the school board is being fiscally responsible and returned some money back to the taxpayers because of the great decisions that they have made going forward, I think that's an enticement back into the town.
I think that we're on a seesaw, and I
Yeah.
think that some people see it as, okay, the education's
agree.
gonna bring them,
I would agree.
and some people see it as, it's the taxes that are gonna bring them. And I honestly think, having been a taxpayer in Belvidere and moved out because of the taxes in Belvidere, it's the town's responsibility.
It's the town's responsibility for what?
To bring the taxes down and find ways to do it at their end.
We're part of the
have-
town. The
We're the
school
majority,
district is
right.
part of the town.
Yes, we are. However, I feel that we have capped our spending on the education and not giving the things that bring people out of Belvidere educationally. There's not things that we had years ago that we have now. We've shut programs because we didn't have the money to do it. And if we have $32,000 that can assist in that, that's a spit in the bucket for taxes, but it's a big chunk of money when it comes to education.
That spit in the bucket could be gathered by cutting other expenses. The spit in the bucket could still be used to fund educational programs. Show some
I don't see
courtesy
that.
to the taxpayers.
To Duck's comment, I don't see that we are wasting money anywhere. We need the education to be better than what other districts in the area are presenting. And that comes from a district that has raised the question of why are we not filling up Belvidere? it's come up at our board meetings, because they can go to another school district, and it's a long cumbersome process. We've had this conversation, it's a long cumbersome process, but it has come up. So I'm just saying that you us as the board need to look at that, and we need to realize that we're stagnated and those other districts have lost money and are still doing what they were doing for their kids before they lost the money. So it's something that we as a board need to look at as well. And I get it. I lived here, and I know what I pay now in White versus what I paid there. My taxes are still lower than what that house was in Belvidere, and I have 3 times the house and 3 times the property. But that's not going to help the kids that we're trying to educate.
$32,000 is not materially going to affect our educational quality.
Absolutely.
It will.
It will.
Okay, you and I differ on that.
No, I think that the programs that as the finance committee looked at, that if we can entice 1 to 2 children to stay in this high school and not go to tech, or not choose to go to a private school because we have something that they want to study, then, and we can do that, then that $32,000 can be used properly.
And we can't get $32,000 out of the other $6 million?
I don't know where you can cut.
Okay.
Catherine, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
I just was saying, I see both, and I see that we have a tax problem, and our school is rated 16 out of 100. So,
Can we get the vote on the motion?
Any other discussion on the motion?
And the motion is again, so that we know what we're voting on.
Shelley, could you read back the motion, please?
And I just put down, Don, you said to give back $32,000 additionally to the taxpayer booth.
Reduce the budget.
Give it back.
Give it
Give it back.
Right, so, yeah, we
Reduce budget by 32,000, we'll go back to that. That's what
reduce the tax money.
Any other discussion? Yeah. Roll call, please. Now, we're not approving the budget, though. This is only direction to.
Right.
Just to be clear, we're not approving the budget this evening. We are giving direction back to Shelley in her preparation for the budget.
Yes.
study.
A yes is to get back.
Yes.
A yes is to reduce the tax money.
Yeah.
Mr. Plum.
Yes.
Mrs. Bookman.
No.
Dr. Tuck. Mr. LeVar.
No.
Mr. Matlock.
Yes.
Mr. McNamara.
No.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mrs. Powell.
no.
Mr. Smith.
No,
Mrs. Steph.
Yes.
Mrs. White.
No.
Seven to four, motion is not passed.
All right.
Well, actually, we need
You know, I'll just say this about this and then we move on. It's good that we can have a lively discussion. It's good that we can disagree, but it's also good that we can be respectful in our discourse.
And maybe we can look at this, like, this is a top priority for next year?
I think budgeting is always a high priority.
Yes, but I mean, with the 32, you know.
Put Mary on finance next year.
Huh?
Put you on finance next year.
Yeah, done.
I don't know if you want me on finance next
New
year.
business. Do we have any new business?
I just have one more continuing business, which is regarding the ethics submissions.
Oh, I
I
still
think
have
about
one.
half the board has submitted their ethics forms, they're due by April 30th. John, you should have seen yours today.
I got it done today.
Oh, yes, because
You
your
know who
email when
didn't?
you got the,
Oh, did it? Okay.
That
I
was
got it
the
today and I
problem.
did it.
Can you tell us who you still need them from?
You should have gotten an email.
I
on
thought I
this.
did mine, but I left my job, so I'm not
Oh.
sure where my emails were going.
Okay.
So I could have missed. I thought
I know
I did.
mine is still due, Shelley.
Yeah, it was about, I did make a list, I just didn't bring it.
All right, so Shelley, could you send the
I'll send you an
reminder
email
out?
tomorrow to the people that have
Let
not
me know for
submitted.
sure if
All
I
right.
didn't, because I gotta try and track it down.
I looked at it today, you're good.
Okay. So if you don't get an email from Shelley, it means you're good.
I need to call school boards and change my email address.
Shelley, thank you.
I I think I can do that for you.
See if you can do that.
If you, just remind me,
I'll email you tomorrow with the right email address, and if
because
you
you
can
want
fix
the
that.
Marianne and Embark email on?
Yeah.
Just remind me, and
I'll email you tomorrow.
Any other new business?
Sean, could I just make the recommendation that committees share minutes if we could? Because it's hard to understand what's going on in financial and everywhere else.
Finance is not like a
I know,
Oh, okay.
no,
Yeah.
But moving forward, I think it's a
And then
good
we,
idea just to open people that don't sit on the committee's eyes.
I agree. So where we're practical, we should be doing that.
Yeah.
It's hard when the meeting happens just prior
I
to,
agree.
but,
At least for the next meeting.
but I think we, in general, we've done a pretty nice job with sharing minutes of various committees, but you're right, though. Wherever there's an opportunity for us to continue to communicate, I agree.
I think, just to piggyback on Pat's point, just that we clarify who's gonna put those minutes together. I personally do not mind doing that, but I know that, I don't want it to be where my spin is on every note that's taken. So I don't know if you wanna put that to the chair of every committee, just
Should
so
be the
that
chair.
it's uniform throughout, and it's not, and if it's me on any one of them, I'm fine with that too, but as long as it's uniform throughout.
It should be the chair unless for some reason the chair doesn't have the, there's, coming out of that particular meeting and then talking with Chris,
Yeah.
so you to be the backup, if the
Yeah.
chair doesn't have the ability to do minutes for a particular
Right,
meeting.
so to use curriculum as I think the best example, Tag takes the notes, they'll share them, just as with me to see if they're
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
and then they go out. So as long as we're okay with that as the process, then that makes more sense.
I agree.
Policy doesn't need.
Policy
No.
does it through email, so
Yeah.
you
I
get
appreciate seeing you.
Yes, yeah.
Very enlightening. Policy meets electronically, comments on the policies, and what you see at the meeting is.
Yeah,
what
I
action-
can, those I can see in highlighted
Okay.
sections, yeah.
And also in your package, there was the updated committee assignments to you should send your package as well.
I need for the ethics forms, Mr. Plum, Mrs. Pepino, Mr. Matlock, and Mr. McNamara. So I believe I just had the email with the link sent again a couple days ago.
I just got it, yeah.
Yeah, but again,
Yeah.
so you should have it. April 30th.
April 30th.
So it's before the next meeting.
Okay.
I'd like to remind everybody that is a CUSAC point, so
Yes.
if we don't have that done. And then I just want to bring up a new business. We have, in the past, at times had a member of school boards come to do goal setting, and we have done that. I like to do it probably in that August meeting. Is everybody good with doing that again? Do you like that process? It helps set the goals for the board and for the superintendent moving forward.
Yeah.
So I'll set that up, because now it's about the time to start
Does
setting
that work
up
for
everybody for the August meeting.
Anybody away in August, do they know yet? We're too far out.
Far out.
The other thing to just mention too, not to prolong the long meeting, but why not? Strategic planning has, it should be more continuous, but I mentioned, has continued to meet. We're meeting against Mark. We have, at this point, we put together a new vision statement, a new mission statement, and we put together strategic goals. The last meeting we had was actually the best meeting that we've had overall. I shouldn't think of it in here. Renee's on. Ms. Christopher was on strategic planning. So we had a really good meeting last meeting, and we're meeting against Mark. So I'm hoping also in August to present our final strategic plan.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you. Anything else under new business? Public participation, we have our second public participation. Any comments? Yes.
First, I'd like to point out, I'm sure you all know at this point, I'm the treasurer for the baseball, I'm sorry, the soccer boys club. I have not yet been asked for year-end statement, Evans. Just so you do know that, I have not been asked for that. I'm also on the baseball committee. 2 years in a row, I have submitted that paperwork, I've been asked for it. You are totally on something when you say, if this board is gonna be approving clubs, you need to be more on board. I can tell you from years' experience, I have never been given a set of bylaws from any committee I've been on. I'm sure at one point there might have been in years past, they've never been passed on. Baseball we had this year, we have sat down and we created a set of bylaws. I think you need to make a set of bylaws that it's universal for all your clubs. If you're gonna oversee fundraising, you need to oversee all of it. So those funds are put in proper accounts where they belong. They're not put into wrong accounts. And the money's in this guy, misused. On that note, I do have a question for the board. The student activities account. What exactly is it and how is it used? What is it used for? How are monies put there, what is it used for?
So student activity is any money that's raised through the school.
Through the
Not a
school.
booster, take the booster club
Okay.
out of it.
Okay.
So if the senior, I'll use the senior class, easy example. Senior class has a fundraiser, and I can name them off, the mattress, the dances. Money is then deposited into a student account. So when Mr. Zetterstrom goes to pay for the Disney tickets, or he goes to pay for the airfare, things of that nature, check is cut right out of that account, sent to.
And it's established for that particular group.
Correct.
Okay.
So I'll make it to sports to make it probably a little bit more pliable.
Thank you.
So the idea is that for an outside organization, so an establishment of a booster club becomes an outside organization.
Yes.
Money cannot be put into that account from your outside. You can write checks and pay for anything you want. That's completely
Out
up
of
to
our
you.
own account.
Correct.
Oh, correct.
But when the money comes in, first of all, the money can't come into our account, and then when it does, then we're the stewards of it, and almost we tell you where it gets spent.
When that money is deposited into that account, are you asked, is the question, where does the money come from? How did you acquire this money?
There is a form that's filled out for those
Okay.
reasons. So it's like a Google form.
So you would know if it was done by a club?
If an individual puts it in there, so if I decide, I'll use Ms. Cope, and Ms. Cope is behind us. If Ms. Cope puts the money into student government account, she signs off, Deb Cope, put the money into this account. That's how we know where it got there and how it came from.
Do you know how she made the money?
She would put on there, I don't know, student government, concessions.
There you go.
So like that. So that'd be that.
Okay.
And who would know? You would know?
The person who runs the account, I have the ability to ask for it at any time, as does any three of the principals or vice principal. Generally, if it's going to a specific school, it's really the principal's thought process. There's 90 accounts. I can't sit there and try to look at every account every building. But that's the idea behind it.
So say Ms. Coke wanted to purchase whatever, tickets or whatever she wants to pull the money from. So, okay, and then it becomes a process. So when it gets to you,
It never gets to me.
who does it get to?
It gets to the principal of the building.
So the principal needs to sign off.
The principal will sign off on it, and either the person who's in charge of the accounts, in this case is Mr. Bowen, who runs all of the accounts, will sign, or Ms. McKinney can sign for it, Mr. Staples can sign for it, anybody can sign for it, but the true process is the building principal and the person who runs the account.
And so the principal could then also say no.
Principal could say no, but would have to have a very good reason to say no.
Okay.
This
Okay.
is the school activity.
Thank you.
Correct.
So there's board policy on this, which you can access online. It's actually policy 3453. And that's available on our website if you want to access it.
Booster Club has done it.
Correct.
And you use your funds to buy uniforms or doors, whatever it may be. Do they have the taxpayer ID, they are using the schools?
No, we have our own.
They're using that.
We have our own.
You have your own,
Yes, sir.
so you register as a 501c3.
No problem.
Other questions from the public? Mr. Mayor Kennedy.
Good evening. I had quite a bit that I really wanted to say tonight. But at this time, it seems most of it's a moot point. I first want the board to understand something. Thank you to Chris Karuba and Shelley for meeting with me. But I feel a little bit perhaps you misled this board thinking that we were in agreement with some of your statements tonight. That couldn't be further from the truth. I was hard pressed on supporting this community in this town, asking for a reduction, just like many of the board members stood up here. I've asked some of the same questions to you folks that day that we met, the same that these folks have asked here tonight. And I'll ask the question again, as they did. If you did not receive the $32,000 in state aid, what would you have done?
I think we answered that, Joe. I think we answered that pretty clearly. And first of all, I don't think at any point we said that we agreed on anything. I don't believe I put any words into your mouth, but that's just my take on the whole thing. We said that if the $32,000 was not there, we prepared a budget without that $32,000 that we would have moved forward.
Correct. What would you have changed if you did not have that $32,000? What would you have eliminated by not having that $32,000?
We would eliminate nothing. We wouldn't add anything. is more the way we're looking at it. We had a budget that had the 32,000 without it. So now with the, right, with the 32,000 now is now we're looking at what we can do for the students. See, you see the difference the way we're looking at it?
No, I clearly see. What is your vision moving forward for the residents of Township? I listened to the woman from White Township. And again, I understand your philosophy, but there's a need in this town of Belvidere alongside with the school district. And again, please, board members, Brian, you guys have done a phenomenal job. I can't argue the point, what you do for this resident, the residents of the town of Belvidere and descending districts. But when there's a time that arises, whether you keep taxes flat or you pull them forward from, bank caps or whatever have you, when you have the ability, you had a great ability this year to give a gesture back to the town of Belvidere to show them that you're not only worried and making the school district better, but you're also considering other people within this residence, whether it's our young children, whether it's our seniors, whether it's disabled. Now, during our meeting, one of the things that was said to me, well, it's only $2. It's 1 penny is only $15 a month. Okay, here's the difference, Shelley. Here's the difference. The difference is when you combined those monies together, the town of Belvidere has given back 2.21 this year to the municipal tax, in answer to your question, because that is our responsibility, along with streets and roads and being the county seat, having 23.4% of our property not generating revenue, keeping our streets plowed, salted, and maintained when the buses do come in, which is part of the infrastructure and our responsibility. That's not paid toward tuition. So all I'm saying is, when we've had these opportunities, we should use them. I understand that it's only $25 a year in a school tax cut. But if you now combine that with the $30 that the town of Belvidere is giving in municipality and the reduction that's being given to the county, well, guess what? You got $50, $75, $80 in a tax reduction coming in a household tax bill. That's going to help many, many people. And I don't think it's that these same families that are being educated don't appreciate it, and they surely appreciate all you guys, everything you're doing. And listen, I know what you guys go through. I mean, I've looked at your fund balance. I've looked at different areas, where you could utilize money in different areas. I understand you spend so much in HAVC. I understand you brought the bank cap forward last year to take care of security. How much was that, Shelley, last year that you brought that forward, the bank cap? Was it 3.5 cents, 3.5? How much was it that you brought forward? Hypothetically, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000? I guess my point is that the dollar amount is not important. You brought it forward because you had a need to protect our children, the security, and there's going to be future needs, no question about it, okay? My point is, you brought that money to take care of this one-time situation. Here we go again. We've raised taxes last year for this one-time situation, and now you're never going to get it back. It's always going to be utilized for something else, and that's really my point. The same thing with the state aid. Whenever more money comes in, you're always going to find a good need for it. I can't argue with that. I respect that. All I'm saying is, when you're building budgets and you're looking at these things, look at your community as a whole. The school district is a part of our community. The school district is 52.1% of a tax dollar in the town of Belvidere. You know what we operate the municipality on? 24 cents. The rest is county. So we do our due diligence, So we're not as well off as White Township. White Township does well. Why are their taxes low? They had the incinerator, they have the landfill, they have the sewer, they have all these different aids and these monies. They got DSM. Our local municipality, 1 square mile, we have none of that besides. So that's all I'm asking for when you guys consider these things and take a look at it. look at it more at a broader, eye-opening situation than just the district, because there are other needs out there. So again, I thank all you guys very much for everything you do. I really do. Thank you.
We utilized $36,000 last year in bank account.
Thank you.
The remainder of the money was part of the 2% allowance that we were allowed to use
Right.
in 1819. And I think I said earlier, we still have almost $120,000 in bank account that we still could utilize.
Still left.
Still left.
Correct, correct. That could potentially be used in the future.
It only carries forward 3 years.
3 years
over
total,
time.
and then it gets stale.
So, yes, part of that will continue to stuff, but
Thank you again.
Joe, thank you. Other comments, questions from the public this evening? Do a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Have a good evening, everyone.